Welcome to the Fall 2020 Ladies Big Book Study Recording Series. My name is Kimberly and I am a recovered alcoholic. I am the facilitator of a tri-weekly Big Book Study for ladies only, and we record each session so we can share the knowledge along with you. What we do is we read the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line. We pause on each page and have discussion time to share our experience, our strength, and our hope on each page. You are more than welcome to follow along in this series and do the work of the steps of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you do need support at any time, please reach out to me in the Contact Us area of my YouTube channel, and we're happy to provide you with support. The online recordings are open to men and women. Do not be discouraged, gentlemen. Our ladies' point of view may offer you a different perspective. So welcome. I hope you enjoy. Bing. All right, ladies, we're continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're talking fears today, page 67. Notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns. Just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us and humbly rely on Him, does He enable us to match calamity with serenity. We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention as to what He would have us be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear. And I just thought of something as I'm going, and I'm going to throw it out there for you guys. Last time I mentioned I have an expanded fear inventory. So what I'm going to throw out there for today is for those of you who have already done this process and are just here auditing the class and are not doing this at a step, so to say, I'm going to go over that after today. So if you want to stick around, I will print out my expanded fear inventory and explain it to you guys. That's kind of like the Fears 202 that will follow Fears 101. But for those of you who are doing this way for the first time, please wait to look at that fear expanded and get the basics down first, okay? So first let's break it down because fears are huge. Fears, for me, are the root of all my stuff. All my stuff starts here in fear. Nothing ever happens without fear being the root cause. It sets that ball rolling. That's why we put it in the column 5, so we can see the evil and corroding thread. So what that looks like, we'll go over in a sec. But it's exactly what happens. It sets in motion trains of circumstances which brought us that misfortune we have in that column 2 and column 3 that we actually started. It started with us, and it starts with fear every time. I've never had a situation that didn't have a fear attached to it. And so that's why I love doing it this way. So we're going to review our fears thoroughly. We're going to put them on paper. It's a two-parter. We have our emotional fears that are going to go in the column 5. And then we have all those other fears. Spiders, falling, clowns, balloons, whatever other fears you have, don't matter how weird it is, it goes on a separate list. Those are the non-emotionally tied fears, the tangible stuff. And we're going to go through, even if we have no resentment with them, and it's going to show us why we have them, right? Like, I used to be like, well, I don't know where I got that fear from. I don't know where I got this from. I never figured that piece out. For me, I don't need to know where my fear is in order to overcome it, where I got it from. What fears usually come up for me from is past trauma, past experiences, and it's a defense mechanism that I think I need to keep myself from getting hurt. But what actually happens is these fears are causing me to repeatedly get hurt. Once I've done this process, once I figured out how those fears were affecting me, did I master my resentments and have them removed? That's my experience. It's different for everyone. I'm just asking you to be open-minded to look at it this way and see if it makes sense to you. And you see there, it says, when it made us cocky, it was worse. My ego and my false confidence was always to protect the things that I was fearful of. Me being loud and assertive, that was all that fake stuff because my self-esteem was in the gutter. And it was all based in fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being rejected, fear of not being loved, blah, 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 blah. There's a million. So it goes on to talk about God and how we're going to trust God and infinite God. We can go over that a bit later, but let's talk fears. So in the little sheets that I sent those who just got them and those who have them from the Facebook page, I got some master fear lists. Because there's a lot of fears that we don't even think of. And we're like, oh, I don't have a fear. I don't have a fear associated with that. No, there's no fear. There's a fear. If there's a resentment, there's a fear. Trust me. So this list has a lot. I'm just going to buzz through a bunch of the big ones. Fear of being hurt, fear of being beaten, fear of responsibility, fear of the truth, fear of being found out, because we're liars, you know. Fear of loss of friends, fear of not being good enough, fear of being unlovable, one of the top 5 in women's life, alongside fear of rejection and fear of abandonment. Those are 3 of the top 5 for almost 98% of the women in Alcoholics Anonymous. Fear of missing out, good old FOMO. Fear of the loss of family, fear of criminal record, fear of having a reputation, fear of your reputation, fear of dying, fear of no man or woman, whatever the case may be, wanting you, fear of death, fear of not being believed. That's especially big in recovery. Once you're starting to recovery, your journey, and you're scared people won't believe you because you used to be a liar. Fear of economic insecurity, which is fear of money, fear of financial stuff. Fear of being homeless, fear of jealousy, fear of judgment, fear of not being a good mom, daughter, husband, wife, whatever the case may be. Fear of being, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of inadequacy, fear of anger, fear of chaos, tons and tons of fears. I got a master list. The thing I love about the master list is I can use this as a tool and print it out at any point. So if I've got stuff that's coming up in my life, or if I'm doing a little mini 4, or I've been getting a lot of stuff coming up in my step 10s, I print this out and I just highlight the fears that are popping up for me. So I keep track of the fears that are popping up for me. So if you're new and this is your first time, we're going to do it in the column 5, attached to the situation that we're writing the resentment about. What are the fears with this person? Fear with the mom, it's going to be like fear of letting my mom down, fear of abandonment, fear of not being a good daughter, all sorts of stuff. Relationships, we get that fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone forever. There's another one of those top 5s for women. So for your first time, you do it in a column 5. If we're doing a refresher, you can just use your little highlight sheet and highlight the fears that have been cropping up for you lately, because this would be handy to do in the expanded fear inventory. And I like to look at my fears sometimes, because I'll be like, I don't have any fears. And then I pull out the sheet, and I'm like, ooh, that one's been cropping up. Dang it. Okie dokie. So we're going to set those on paper in that column 5. And we list them. So here we have the ex-boyfriend, of course, my good old friend, the ex-boyfriend, and it's the fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of not being loved, fear of being alone, fear of judgment. So then we've got the McDonald's, my good old place, the McDonald's resentment. Fear of not being perfect, fear of not being a good mom, fear of judgment. Weird that those would be the fears associated to my resentment towards McDonald's screwing up my order and being rude to me. There's a thinker. Gas prices, financial insecurity, fear of financial insecurity, fear of control. I can't control that. I like to be in control. I was in Abbotsford yesterday. I was an hour out of the city and I got gas for $1.07. The old me would drive that far to buy cheap gas. Just because that's that twist of mental thinking, right? Fear of financial insecurity, fear of lack of control. I can control it by driving out there and getting it. Screw you, government man. I can drive an hour and get me my gas. Not so. Not so. Who am I harming in that? My kids? They're losing an hour of my time. My former partner who I used to argue with over why I did it. Craziness, right? So we look for these fears that are attached to whatever the situation is and we list them. So that's the first step. So then we do a separate sheet altogether, just a separate piece of paper, and that's where we're going to write down the other fears. Spiders, swimming, balloons, clowns, flying, heights, Freddy in the woods, whatever those other tangible fears that are not emotionally attached to a resentment go on a separate piece of paper. Then the third step is to pray them away. So you can use a modified 7-step, which is on page, my brain, 76, which goes, my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me my fear of spiders, which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here. God, please remove my fear of insert next fear. We pray each fear away separately. It does 2 things. We'll talk about it again when we get to step 6 and 7. But number 1, it tells your subconscious brain that fear does not serve you. It also memorizes your fears. So when you're doing your step 10 and your daily goings about, so you know what fears are regular for you because you just prayed all of them away. So if I have 10 top fears and I've prayed every day for 2 weeks, I know what my 10 top fears are. Page 76, second paragraph. And of course, the biggest thing is we're asking God to remove it. Super, super, super good tool. So then, with a pencil, very lightly, we are going to draw our evil and corroding thread. And this is where we tie it all together. So with a pencil, because we need to be able to still read this very lightly. No black Sharpie. Although black Sharpies would show you very, very specifically. My fear of abandonment causes me to be selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. When I am selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened, I lie, I cheat, I manipulate, I ignore red flags, I paint red flags green, which causes me to hurt my self-esteem, my security, my ambitions, my personal and sex relations, which brings all this stuff into my life. So if we do this for each fear, you're going to see that thread, right? That pencil line that's going to be going through your page. That's the fabric that your life has been woven through. That pencil line connecting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is your evil and corroding thread. That thread weaves through the fabric of your life, and that fabric is as thin as a tissue and as bottom basement as your self-esteem. And tissue breaks easily. But the more fears you have, the thicker your fabric is. The worse your self-esteem is, the worse your sex relations are damaged, the worse your personal relations are damaged. Fear is the thread that ties it together. We want to cut that thread. That's what we're going to do in our 6 and 7. Cut that thread. Then we're not tied to that anymore. Questions, comments, concerns? Joanne?
Hi, everyone. So Kimberly, I have a question on a broader scale in terms of your format. If the first column is resentments, people, places, things, all that, how does it get set up when someone has for example, myself, if I was the one that caused the injury?
Do you have a resentment against a person you caused the injury to?
No. What I'm saying in terms of doing a 4-step, if I have regret, because I got drunk and I did something to someone else and they are resentful toward me, is that a different form?
That's your 8th step. Because column 1 is
yeah, that explains a lot now.
Yeah, because column 1 is people, places, and things I am angry at, and then 8th step is people, places, and things that I have harmed.
Yeah, because I was in a discussion and they kept saying, yes, but you have to you have to identify the things that you've done, and I'm like, wait a minute, something's not missing. And you're right. It's the other step. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 'cause some people tell you to write a lot of things down in that column 1 that you're not angry with. And that's what we add. I think we actually added on the last page as we start to add to our list those people we may not have a resentment towards that we have harmed. But that's moving on to 8 and 9. Because 6 and 7 is a quick step. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like this technically where we do this fear prayer, that's moving into 7 area. Yeah.
And can you post your email in the chat so that all these ladies that have asked you to email, that they could email you?
I think I got all the ones from the chat.
Did you? Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
This is the easiest email to get me, but I have my service one, but just do that email.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
I get 5,000 emails anyway, so. Irene?
My name's Irene. I'm an alcoholic. I'm having a really hard time with this, and like I'm beginning to think that it's just my fear, like not letting me do it. Like I don't, like I understand it. Like I just am overwhelmed, and like I was fine, and now I'm frustrated. Like, is it just fear that's like,
Yeah, and it sucks to look at the fact that you're bringing all this stuff in your life that you've blamed other people for a long time. It's kind of that sucky moment where you're like, damn, I set the ball rolling. My fears have really dominated my life. I've been really mad at people, but I really am starting to see that I should kind of be cross with myself because I have been acting in fear this whole time. But the thing that's the positive, where we get the hope side of it, is once you figure this out, we don't have to react with fear anymore. We don't have to act this way anymore. We don't have to be this way anymore. We don't have to live this way anymore. So there's that freedom that comes from seeing this unfold. Because we're not crappy people. We're sick people getting well. MJ, I saw your fingers wiggling. Oh, I muted you. Damn it. Where do I list the mute button? Did you get it? There you go.
Yeah. Do you, like I hear all sorts of different opinions on this. Do you put because you just said I should be, when I start looking, I see, oh my God, I've done all of this stuff to myself. Do you put yourself on the list?
Myself? I disagree with that. This is actually all me.
No, but I'm just
yeah. Right? Like, for me, I've never put myself on my list because this is actually me. It's my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear all the different things.
But I hear that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That like I heard.
But I have gone through a period of where when I see all this, I start to, get so angry at myself and then I start resenting myself. And I mean, I don't anymore, but I went through a period of that where I had to come to a place where I did what I did because I knew what I knew at the time and to forgive myself. So I just wondered if you put your name on this list.
No, but if you really thought about it, the correct thing to put down wouldn't be yourself. It would be your disease.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because it's your disease that actually, because you didn't know better. Why didn't you know better? Because of your disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And another one could be childhood too, because some of us didn't have the certain luxuries of a good childhood. And so not knowing any better is because your parents didn't know any better and didn't teach you the right from wrong. So that would be a resentment to your childhood upbringing type idea. Bonnie?
Sorry. Okay. I listed a bunch that involve my principles and people who have different principles. So I've got I've got that I'm being self-righteous. So what is the fear there? Like, okay, so that would be all mix of, there's political and there's COVID deniers and racists, and climate change deniers, right? So I have this whole little bunch to the point where I've actually had to stop watching TV because it makes me so mad. So that's a very self-righteous stance. So what would the fear be there, do you think?
Well, the one I can think of is fear of authority, fear of lack of control.
Okay, yeah, lack of control, yeah. Yeah, because that's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, for sure. Deborah?
I just wanted to comment on Bonnie. It's also fear of those things. Your fear of the climate. You got the fear of the COVID. You got the fear of all those things. So your anger at those people is because you're afraid they're going to cause, so because I have kind of same stuff going on the other side, and I have to look at, I'm fear other people are going to control me, and it helps me to look at, to break it down. So I have to look underneath it all to what was why do I care what other people think? Because it's the same thing. They're fear of control, because that means they're going to control me because they have going to make decisions based upon what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. The fear of lack of control too, right? And then Lila added in the chat, fear of the future or of the unknown as well. So good to have a collective with more experiences. That's so awesome. Anybody else? Go ahead, Janice.
I don't know if it's I just thought of it as well. Could be like fear of being liked or being loved, because I know a lot of people are tying up the COVID and whatnot, even with Zoom and doing something like in the beginning when I really got into this, and back when I first met everybody months ago, and I was going to London for afternoon tea and going to this one and that, and I got called, oh, are you being Miss AA now? Like being shamed for trying to make the best of a bad situation. So all those that I like was just being shared about, the ones that I might have a resentment or be disturbed by people that are anti-COVID or anti-climate or whatnot. It's because those things are important to me. It's like a fear that my relationship, I'm going to lose a friendship, I'm going to lose just a fear of love and whatnot between like family members, and there's a fear of like a loss there. I don't know.
Absolutely. Super layered fears. That's how Little Miss Sobriety came about. Someone said it in a rude way at a meeting about me, and I'm like, I like it. I'm gonna wear it as a badge of honor. Yeah, it's how we perceive it too, and that was just the showing of how healthy I had become, where I had already done a lot of healing and a lot of my fears had been taken away, so I wasn't a fear of that judgment. I was just like, yeah, I am. All right, I'm happy to help people. Good enough. So, Wendy.
I just have a question. This might be a little ahead, but how are we doing our step 5s? Are we doing them on here? Are we doing them with a sponsor?
It is a little ahead, but since the question comes up, we'll answer it. There's no rule. You just got to do it. So if you have a sponsor, please do it with your sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, you can reach out to myself or anyone else here that's done it before. Lucia's done it. Della's done it. Marianne's done it. Lots of the ladies have done it, and we'll do a little connector session in the chat, and you can reach out and connect to anybody. Just don't do it with a man.
No.
and preferably someone who's done it this way, simply because then they know what you've written out, because I've done it 4 different ways and the first 3 didn't work. So
yeah, I've never done it this way, so that's why I kind of asked. It came into my head. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that information.
You're
awesome.
Welcome. And if anybody wants to start auditioning, that's a partial use of what that Facebook page is for too. Start auditioning people for your chat. Make sure you're comfortable. It's important that you have that spiritual consent with that person. All right. Tracy, your name disappeared, but I know you're Tracy. There we go.
Hey, Kimberly. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy, and I'm an alcoholic. I remember when I did this in the beginning of my sobriety. I'm actually doing it again with my sponsor. But I remember how tied up in knots I got. and because we really try, I find that more of us really try to do it perfect and understand the whole thing. I tried to do a spreadsheet. I tried to do a journal. It was crazy. I was making myself crazy. But because I was new, I didn't know how to ask for help. And finally, I said something to my sponsor, but that's the first step. So I think your name was Irene, who had mentioned she was, getting a little overwhelmed. And that's so big for us. So I clap that she did that. I actually ended up doing it similar to the way you're teaching us, but I wouldn't even put it on paper. I put it on stickies. So in my back pocket, I kept stickies. And anytime that I thought about it, I could write a small thing on a sticky, but don't give me a page to work off of. I've simmered down in my years now, and so I get this. So thanks everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much. And just remember that all of us here that are happy, joyous, and free, we got through it. It didn't kill us. We're all still alive. Most of us are still like, yeah, we love step 4. Most of the people that you hear that dislike step 4 are those who never completed it. I'm going to just say that. I'm going to throw it out there, and people can hate on me and send me nasty messages if they disagree. I'm okay with that. But most of the people that are like, ugh, I don't like step 4. Step 4 is awful. Did you actually do it? Did you complete it? Well, no. Meh. I'm like, oh, well, that's why you don't like it. 100%. Marianne, Toronto.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic from Toronto. My name's Marianne. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be sober. I think the best thing for me, because I did have a huge fear going into this and was overwhelmed. And somebody said to me, Marianne, these steps are not there to put the fear into you. It's to get the fear out of you. And I remember that every time I have to go and do this, that this is my solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Joanne.
Hey, I did that pretty fast.
You did.
So I just want to share that before I started the ladies line by line, I did this format with pretty close to it with my sponsor, and I think the format is wonderful, and I wouldn't change anything. But she had offered to kind of walk with me, which I thought was really interesting, and I kind of liked it. Like, I made my list, and then I sat with her and I, wrote why and did all of that. But when it came to the last 3 and making the connection, we scheduled time and we walked through it together. And it was a different way to do it, but it was a good way to do it. So I think there's a lot of flexibility, but I think the format is solid. But how you go about it, and if you're really getting jammed, ask your sponsor to kind of go through some of it with you. I don't know. I just wanted to share that. It was actually quite wonderful because I got to some things that I really needed to get to. And it was nice having her there. That's it.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anne Marie, are you trying to unmute, love? There you go. Try that.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'm just being a little dense today, but I'm still not getting it. How do I go from the column that's called my injuries to the column that's called my mistakes, section B? How do I go from someone who hurt my self-esteem to choosing between selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? How do I do that?
Because you need to get out of your mind that they hurt your self-esteem and look how you hurt your self-esteem. The first instruction is putting out of mind others had done.
Okay.
So you're still looking at it as They hurt my self-esteem. So how do I have any fault or blame? But
no, it's not that I don't have any fault or blame. I just don't see.
You're still looking at it left to right, how they harmed you.
Well,
we need to shift it.
I'm trying to see how I fill it in what order. Okay.
Yep.
I've got 1, 2, and 3 done.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's the next one that I do?
If you're struggling on 4, do 5. If you're struggling on 4, go to 5 and see what your fears are.
Okay,
and then see if you can work backwards.
Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. That now I can see it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Hi, Bobby Alcoholic.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi. Okay. So I'm looking at this and I've got my people, my person, why I'm angry, what my injuries are. So my next one will be action, correct? And my 4th column would be action, which would be like, I don't know, I gossiped about them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next one would be like, what was going on there? Was I being selfish, dishonest, self-serving, blah, 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 frightened, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. I was just a little bit confused about the 4th column, but that clears it up.
Yeah, we just split it because it just makes it easier to pop it. It just pops. It just kind of hits you a different way when we have the action and the fault, blame, and wrong. Because a lot of people, they're stuck in that my part, what's my part? And then they don't see how it hits.
Yeah, and I used to be totally stuck in my part. Like I would just beat the shit out of myself over it and never really get to why.
Yeah, so it's like my fear of this causes me to be selfish and dishonest. And how does that show up for me? Well, I paint red flags green, I lie, I manipulate. It just pops and it stands out better. It's more digestible. Let's use that word.
Trust me. It didn't. I think I got 4 8x10 sheets instead of 1.
Yeah. Oh, when I did this the first time this way, I think I had 25 legal size papers.
I was talking to Jenny yesterday, and she said I was thinking maybe I'd go to the dollar store and get a Bristol board, and I just went, oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, if you want to look at your faults and your defects of character and your fears, get a big old Bristol board and write them in Sharpie. These are my fears. I'm selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened, and these are the things I do all the time. I lie, I cheat, I manipulate, I paint red flags. You're like, that red paint, it came everywhere. Like I must have got clearance green paint because I was a master painter. Cutting in those edges, you couldn't see green or red. I painted it so well. So yeah, we gotta look at that stuff and make it pop so we understand.
Great, thanks, Darla.
Thank you. MJ, go ahead.
You know, that reminds me of when I first started my step 4. I was such a perfectionist that I had to go out and get the right stationery because I have this addiction to pens and paper and stickies and all of this stuff. So I think I postponed my step 4 for months by just going shopping, looking for the right paper, the right pen, and all of that stuff. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah, notebooks, perfect notebooks with like quotes written in the cover because I was gonna do it good. Oh yeah, no, notebooks with blank pages now. Beverly.
Hi everybody, Beverly Alcoholic. Hey, I think I'm understanding this more and more. For example, I have a fear of rejection by a certain person or group of people. So when I go backwards, I can be very self-righteous, like, how dare they, or I can go into self-pity. I'm like, I can't believe people treat me this way. But because of that, in 4A, I will reject you there. So I withdraw, I become very self-righteous, and so I can see how that just, separates me more and more from people. And, this is a really good way to look at, my MO. How do I act? So I just have one question about spiritual security. I understand mental, it's like stress, physical, my health. But if I feel like somebody's messing with my spiritual security, what would an example of that be?
Me disturbing you with what I say in a big book study. Or someone questioning your belief in God and using that against you. That can affect your spiritual security. Hearing someone share something in an AA meeting that just makes you have that feeling. That's your spiritual security.
Okay. Or somebody rejecting my enthusiasm for the program and for God.
Absolutely, because what do we want to do? We want to dim our light a little bit. Because I don't want you to reject me, so I'm going to dim my light a bit because you've come at my spiritual aura. Yeah. And how many of us have had that friend sabotage in relationships? I loved sabotage. Things are going good. I don't think I deserve it because there's my fear of being found out or whatever else it is. And so we sabotage. We run. I was a runner, I'm going to leave before you hurt me. Right? Oh, I'm going to dump you first. Forget communicating. I'm just going to run because that way I'm not going to get hurt. Absolutely. Fun times. Wendy, I'll see you there.
You need to unmute.
Great share so far, but you got to unmute.
Sorry. I have a question. I'm stuck in the fault, blame, wrongs. I have the person, and then why I'm angry talks down to me like I'm a child. So my injuries, self-esteem, insecure, and then my actions. I put quick to react. I complain to others about the situation. I become short with people, angry. And then I cry usually. So what would I put like in the fault, blame, wrong?
Sorry, what was that?
A mind.
Can you repeat it? Sorry. I just had an important text I had to answer from a sponsee.
Okay, so I have the person, and then the why I'm angry is talks down to me like I'm a child. And that affects my self-esteem, my insecurities come up, and then I get quick to react. I'm short with other people. I get angry, I cry. That I put in the action of column 4. What would I put in the fault, blame, wrongs? I'm just having a mind F about that.
Selfish. Selfish for sure. Do you do things in order to get your way? That's self-seeking.
Sometimes, but is it with this particular person?
Yeah, with that person, with that situation where she belittles you and puts you down to make you small. Do you ever manipulate the situation to try to get the upper hand and get your way?
Not in this situation, because it was actually in a AA meeting that I was chairing that day.
Did you?
And she spoke out. So instead of speaking out, my old Wendy would have went, "Hey, fuck you! I'm running the meeting."
Okay,
right?
but here's a question, because this is how good I am. Did you start picking people that you knew would share to debunk her?
No, but I picked everybody afterwards, and I didn't ask her to share at the end.
So that's self-seeking. because it's making your way happen. And then
because I'm thinking, F you, I'm not going to ask you to share, even though I love her shares.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely. So there's the selfish and self-seeking. Frightened, definitely you're frightened because you were scared of your reputation or scared of confrontation, whatever it is. And then were you dishonest in any way?
No
delusion.
Well, I was dishonest and thinking I'm not going to ask her to share, but that was in my own little head, so I don't know. That's my I guess I'll get you.
Okay, so we'll stick to selfish, self-seeking, and frightened.
I'll get you. I won't ask you to share. Yeah, that's where my mind goes. That's the bit of the anger, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna not ever hear your great message again. Damn you.
Oh no, just that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
A really good trick that I was taught by one of my strong spiritual mentors is if something gets said to you and it gives you that so I had a situation where my American sponsor had shared some political views and I went, woo, she's a kook, right? And this is in my head and I went but I was talking to another mentor about it, and they said, well, why don't you talk about it? Bring it up. Pull them aside and say, hey, it's been sticking with me in our last conversation. You said a few things, and I'm just wondering if you can explore that view with me, because I have a difference of opinion, and I just was wondering why you have those thoughts. And that way, we get an understanding of why they have those thoughts. And sometimes maybe it will bring up something, especially we're in this program. I always love good, healthy conversations that make me think, because it's like, okay, wait, am I acting on a fear, or is there some sort of character defect that's coming up in me that I've said something that's offended someone. So it's always good, and it's an opportunity to grow and learn, because maybe you're the one being closed-minded and they've got information you don't have that they've based their decision on. Yeah. There's always lots more to every story. Regina, did you want to share? Or are you just unmuted by accident? By accident. Joanne?
Yeah, thank you for the last share. One of the hardest things that I had to finally address is people that I resented that gaslighted me, that were somewhat crazy, and I would swallow the whole thing, when they were emotionally abusing me, But on the inventory, my action is, where do I perpetuate the victimization? What are the actions that I take that keep me stuck in listening to stuff that I know in my gut is wrong? Where do I enable them to keep doing the harm? And that's a hard part to look at. That's really, but it's freeing once you see it. We get into a pattern with people, and especially in alcoholic homes, where you think that these people are sane, but they're not, and they're abusive. But we can perpetuate. We learned our lessons well. So when we move on and we find other people, and sometimes the pattern again happens, to be able to see where do I play the victim, or where do I hold on? Where do I not say things? When do I not stand up for myself? The inaction or omission. Yeah, this is hard work. It's really hard work, but it's good. It's worth it. It's so worth it. That's it.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of people in this group that are real experts with gaslighting and narcissists, myself included. So narcissists' favorite tool is gaslighting. That's them turning the victim into the abuser. So my ex-husband was the one who was abusing me, but he would try to manipulate situations to make me look like the bad guy, making himself look like the victim. It's age-old friggin' number one go-to for narcissistic men. And women too. There are women who are abusers. It's turning the victim into the abuser. It shows up the most. Oh, well, look how crazy she is. Look how crazy she is. Without the context of why is she acting crazy? If you have a boyfriend or a potential boyfriend that has 6 crazy exes, he's the problem. Tell you that right effing now. If some guy says to me, oh, all my exes are crazy, run for the fucking hills, girls. Run for the hills. He's the common denominator. He's done something to make those 6 chicks crazy. I guarantee it. Me in my mouth. Marianne Toronto.
Well, this is and thanks for that, because I have in-laws that are crazy, and they'll tell me that I am. And this is where it's really helpful when I have good recovery around me to talk to somebody, because I always have to remember that sometimes my alcoholism my thinking gets exaggerated and distorted. So things get big and crazy sometimes too fast. And I need somebody to just cut through what's going on in here, especially if I'm doing stuff on my own. Like, I'm a toddler, I swear to God. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The number one tool I've learned as a sponsor and with dealing with people who are trying to get better with their chaos, repeat back to them what they just said. And they literally go, oh my God, yes, that's exactly right. And I'm like, you just said that to me. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it sounds a whole lot crazier when I say it back, right? And they're like, yeah. But it's like, they're just so caught in that tornado of chaos that they can't get that foot on the ground. It's like they're like whirling around and the ground is right there and that foot just won't connect. And all you do is you say it and they're like, sounds so simple. Like, it is. And that foot gets grounded and the thoughts go, oh, okay. But yet they already knew it. They usually tell you the answer and then you tell them back. They're like, yeah. I'm like, my job's simple. All right, ladies, I think that's a good conversation. Let's stop that up.